हाय गाइस, नमकीन सच टीम है। मेरा नाम है आर्यन और मेरे साथ है
सलीमा।
और आज हम क्या कर रहे हैं?
Apple makes iPhone 14 in
India amid China woes.
Oh, okay, interesting. चलो वीडियो स्टार्ट कर लेते हैं।
Episode of Cold Fusion. The latest iPhone, the iPhone 14, has just been announced. While the focus is on what new features may or may not have been added, there's a lot to be said about the story of how an iPhone is made. From European chip manufacturing machines to Taiwanese critical components, it really is a global effort to put one of these devices in your hand. Since the beginning, China has been the go-to place to manufacture the iPhone. But lately, due to potential signs of instability in China, Apple is increasingly looking towards India to pick up some of that manufacturing capability. Let's take a look at what's going on.
You are watching Cold Fusion TV.
Why China is the first?
So to begin, why was China the place that was selected to manufacture the iPhone? Well, let me tell you a little story. As detailed in my book, in 2007, Steve Jobs decided to have a glass screen instead of plastic for the first iPhone. He made this decision just weeks before its launch, but what I didn't write was how this was achieved. American companies said that this last-minute switch was impossible. However, a Chinese factory said that they could do it. They constructed a dormitory beforehand so their workers could work 12-hour shifts. When the contract was signed with Apple, 8,000 workers were woken up from sleep, given a biscuit and tea, and then got to work fitting the glass screen to the iPhone to in the end produce 10,000 iPhones per day. If this work was done in the United States, 1, it would be much more expensive, and 2, it would take a few months to gather all the workers, while in China, it only took a few days. Leaving aside the obvious human rights issues, stories like this highlight why China is dubbed the world's factory and why the iPhone is mostly made there. But as mentioned, recently, things have begun to swing towards India. Apple first started manufacturing iPhones in India in 2017 with the iPhone SE. Since then, Apple has been working with suppliers to ramp up manufacturing in India, and now it's picking up the pace. In 2020, India was making 1.5% of global iPhone supply. Currently, the country accounts for about 5% of supply. With the iPhone 14 in 2022, Apple wants to raise this to 7%. That's around 12 million iPhones. Earlier this year, Apple even started making the iPhone 13 in India. Last month, Apple analyst Ming-Chi Kuo stated that iPhone 14 production would begin in India 6 weeks after beginning in China. Usually, this lag would be 6 to 9 months. It's believed that iPhone 15 production next year will begin simultaneously in both countries. And the Indian government has offered financial incentives for tech production. They call this scheme the Make in India program. Foxconn, the primary manufacturer of iPhones, studied the process of shipping components from China and assembling the iPhone 14 at a plant in the Indian city of Chennai in the south. For now, this is likely how the supply chain will work. While this may be good news for India, there are still 3 main hurdles to overcome. Number 1, there is a huge supply chain network in China, which doesn't exist in India. It would take a lot of investment to get a parallel Indian system to a comparable state. Assembling iPhones often entails coordination between hundreds of suppliers, and this isn't to mention Apple's infamously tight deadlines and strict quality control. Number 2, for Apple, there's a great deal of risk when it comes to security and secrecy when moving to a new country. Apple goes to extreme lengths to keep new product details confidential and to stop leaks. Imposing the same rigorous controls in a second country would prove to be very difficult. Local Foxconn executives in India have thought about entirely cornering off a section of one of Foxconn's assembly lines. According to Bloomberg, they placed a great deal of scrutiny on how security around the device could be compromised. The conclusion so far is going to be a real challenge to replicate the drastic security controls that the Chinese facilities have. In addition to this, also according to Bloomberg, Apple has major concerns about Indian custom officials. They usually open up packages and check their contents. This is to make sure materials match their declarations, and it goes without saying that this is a massive potential vulnerability for product security. And number 3, India's workforce and factories have caused a bit of a headache for Apple over the past 5 years. There have been disputes and even revolts over poor quality food and pay. It seems that this will probably be the easiest issue to fix, improve the facilities, and re-examine wages.
The time of uncertainty.
So why is Apple doing all of this exactly? Well, the key word is uncertainty. Because of the economic and geopolitical climate, Apple sees a need to diversify its supply chain and build redundancy. They're seeking alternatives as the CCP clashes with the US government. A visit to Taiwan by the Speaker for the US House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, came at possibly the worst time. It partly destabilized the Asia-Pacific region at a time when tensions were already high. Harsh lockdowns across China, especially those in the manufacturing hubs, have really disrupted economic activity. These lockdowns, as well as US sanctions, have put a dent in China's manufacturing prowess. Couple this with rising labor costs in China and a shaky property market, and it's no wonder Apple is starting to look elsewhere for manufacturing.
All goes into Apple's strategy of further diversifying its production capabilities outside of Greater China. But yeah, this is a very big move. And does it mean that Apple is going to move entirely out of China? No, but it does see Apple hedging its bets that there's potentially bigger problems coming as far as manufacturing products there down the line. And obviously this also comes after all those lockdowns and shutdowns that we've seen in China hampering manufacturing. So this is Apple making a bet on the fact that they may have to further diversify just to kind of get away from these kind of troubles in the future.
So what do you guys think? Do you think Apple's move will encourage more investment by other companies to India? Feel free to discuss in the comments section below. Anyway, that's about it from me. My name is Tagogo, and you've been watching Cold.
ओके पहले तो ये हमारे आउट ऑफ बजट है क्योंकि आईफोन और एप्पल खरीदना बहुत मुश्किल है, बहुत महंगा होता है।
हमारे सब्सक्राइबर हमको दिलाएंगे
पहले हमारे पास इतने सारे व्यूज तो आने थे, हम लोग भी टॉप पे पहुंचे, देन उसके बाद हम सबको एक ही आईफोन मिलेगा। नो डाउट किसको शौक नहीं होता है आईफोन लेने का, एप्पल लेने का, क्योंकि उसके फीचर्स इतने अच्छे होते हैं,
खास तौर पे इसकी सिक्योरिटी बहुत अच्छी है।
हाँ, मेनली ना इसकी सिक्योरिटी बहुत अच्छी होती है क्योंकि सबको मेन टेंशन अपना पर्सनल डेटा का ही होता है कि वो लीक ना हो जाए। तो क्योंकि जब भी कोई हर चीज़ परचेज करने जाते हैं तो चीज़ को ही पहले पूरे क्लैरिफाई कर रहे होते हैं, चेक कर रहे होते हैं कि वो चीज़ अच्छी है कि नहीं, कि बाद में से वो लॉस में चला गया लेने के बाद। तो यानी ये तो बढ़िया है कि आपसे देख ही सकते हैं, हम ले नहीं सकते
नहीं, हम देख के खुश हैं,
हम देख के ही खुश है बस।
और माशाल्लाह से मतलब इंडिया थोड़ी बहुत तरक्की कर रहा है, तो इसी वजह से एप्पल जो है वो मतलब चाइना में कुछ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स होने की वजह से वो एप्पल जो इंडिया की तरफ कर रहा है, जैसे इंडिया के साथ उन्होंने 2017 में रिलेशन चालू किए थे तो वो थे 3% पे, फिर 2020 में हो गए 5% पे, और अभी 2022 में हो गए 7% पे। मतलब धीरे धीरे मतलब एप्पल का जो मतलब एप्पल है वो हर तरफ देख रहा है कि यहाँ पे भी है, लेकिन इंडिया को ना इसके साथ करने के लिए कुछ इश्यूज हैं
जो फेस करनी पड़ेंगे होंगे अभी भी।
इनको ह्यूमन रिसोर्स सर्विसेज थोड़ी सी मतलब बेटर करनी पड़ेगी ताकि एप्पल जो है वो इनकी तरफ और वो करे, मतलब करे कि मैं और काम देवे। जाहिर सी बात है इंडिया को चीजें इश्यूज रिजॉल्व करने पड़ेंगे ताकि वो, जैसे भी इंडिया चाइना की बहुत सी कॉन्फ्लिक्ट चल रहे हैं तो इंडिया जाहिर सी बात है चाइना के साथ असल में तो होगा ही कि वो चाइना का काम छीन ले, तो इनको ये चीजें करने की जरूरत पड़ेगी।
तो बट ये अच्छा,
लेकिन एप्पल चाइना के पास से हटेगा तो नहीं, क्योंकि चाइना जो है वो कम कॉस्ट में इतना अच्छा काम करके देता है। क्योंकि जैसे इसने बोला ना कि अपना ग्लासेस की जरूरत थी तो उन्होंने मतलब चटके से उन्होंने अपना वर्कर्स को उठाया लास्ट मोमेंट पे और मतलब धड़ाधड़ फोन पे फोन बना के लॉन्च किया।
10,000 उन लोगों ने वन डे में मैंने बना लिया था, प्रिपेयर कर लिया था। वाओ,
पर चाइना के बंदे तो मेहनती भी बहुत है, बहुत अच्छा काम करते हैं। और चाइना धीरे धीरे जिस तरीके से एक्सपेंड हो रहा है ना अपनी चीजों को, मतलब जिस तरीके से वो काम कर रहा है तो बहुत अच्छा काम है।
हाँ, नो डाउट उन लोग की न्यू चीजें आते रहते हैं, लॉन्च होते रहते हैं हर टाइम और डिफरेंट लेके आते हैं। सेम चीज़ को वो लोग रिपीट नहीं करते हैं, बहुत अच्छा लेकर आते हैं, विद सिक्योरिटी एंड विद गारंटी के साथ ही लेकर आते हैं। तो ये भी अच्छा था। सब अपनी अपनी कंट्री में कौन चाहेगा कि सेम चीज़ को सब अपनी कंट्री में भी ना उसको मैन्युफैक्चर करें और बनाएं और वो भी पब्लिक में दें। बट ये कि डिफ़िकल्टी तो हर जगह प्रॉब्लम फेस तो करने ही पड़ते हैं, चाहे वो इकोनॉमिकल हो या लाइक इक्विपमेंट से रिलेटेड हो।
और होपफुली इंडिया इस चीज को रिजॉल्व कर भी देगा, क्योंकि ह्यूमन रिसोर्सेज तो बहुत है, ह्यूमन रिसोर्सेज बहुत है, बस इनको थोड़ा फाइनेंशियल इश्यूज आएंगे, वो भी रिजॉल्व हो जाएंगे। और आपको हमारा रिएक्शन कैसा लगा कमेंट में बताइए, और आपको हमारी वीडियो कैसी लगी उसको लाइक शेयर सब्सक्राइब कीजिए और बेल आइकन जरूर दबाइए। तब तक के लिए अल्लाह हाफिज़।